drive to right field. This ball is gone. Gone and into the history books.
The Seattle Mariners, Felix Hernandez, the 2-2. He got it! 34 years, 119 games. It's finally happened. A perfect game by a Seattle Mariner. It was done by the King.
And the 0-1 pitch on the way to Edgar Martinez. Swung on and line down the left field line for a base hit. Here comes Joy. Here is Junior to third base. They're going to wave him in. The throw to the plate will be late. The Mariners are going to play for the American League Championship. I don't believe it. It just continues. My, oh my. And they are going crazy at the Kingdom.
Welcome to the Corner of Edgar and Dave, your Seattle Mariners baseball fan podcast. Or, Nick, is this a Kraken podcast now?
Sure. It's
The Kraken,
time for the Mariners.
the Kraken are alive. They played their very first game last night. I know you didn't watch it, but it basically had if there was any doubt whether the Kraken would fit in to the Seattle sports scene, it was squandered last night. Because let me tell you about this game. In the first, hockey, it's a game.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but they play this game by skating on ice. They have knives that they put on their feet, and they walk on ice using these knives. They also have They also have really long, flat baseball bats that they try and hit a puck with. The difference with compared to baseball is that, again, it's a puck. It's not being thrown by anyone. If you throw it with your arm, that's actually against the rules. It's also supposed to be against the rules to kick the puck. However, the Kraken did lose on a kicked puck into the goal last night that the referees failed to acknowledge as a kicked puck. So, yes, the Kraken did lose, but they got down 3-0 just a few minutes into the second period. They gave up two goals in the first period, then got down a third goal. Kraken came just to prove that they were a Seattle sports team, they came all the way back, scoring their first 2 goals within 60 seconds of each other, then scoring another goal to tie it up, and then losing on a kicked puck into the nets that the referees determined was not a kicked puck. I'm not a hockey expert. Not a hockey expert. This is not actually a hockey podcast. I've got hockey fever. What can I say, man? I've got hockey fever. I'm loving me some Kraken. I watched probably the first time I ever sat down and watched an entire NHL game. The game is tied 3-3. The Golden Knights, Las Vegas Golden Knights, another expansion team from just like 4 or 5 years ago, they've actually been very successful. Their very first season, they went to the Stanley Cup Finals, basically the World Series of hockey. And I'm sure some hockey people would just be disgusted that I said that, actually. But whatever.
But they're hockey people, so who cares?
Except we're hockey people now, Nick. We're hockey people. It's exactly the same as baseball game, except you play with knives on your shoes instead of a lot of little knives on your shoes. In baseball, you play with one big knife.
And it's cold instead of being in the middle of summer.
That's another good point. That's another good point. Anyways, this goal was scored, and the player clearly. So apparently, what you're allowed to do is you can deflect the puck with your skate, or you can angle the puck. You can angle your skate and allow the puck to deflect off of your skate and go anywhere, potentially into a goal. But you're not allowed to kick the puck. So that's what they tell me. They score this goal. They show it in slow motion. The guy uses his foot, the outside of his foot, to kick the puck towards the goal. And I'm like, okay, the referees or the announcers just told me that it's against the rules to kick a puck. You can't score a goal on a kicked puck. And so I'm like, okay, this is going to be overturned. Like, they're going to the replay. Like, this is exactly what replay is for. And they come back after about 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes. So it's a quick review. I appreciate that. And they say it's not a kick. I mean, you're going to have to Google this later and look at it, Nick, and tell me if it's a kick or not. But it's like the dude takes his leg and, like, hits it against the puck and then lifts it up and his leg goes outwards. Like, he's kicking it away from him. If it's not a kick, I don't know what a kick is. I mean, again, I'm not a hockey expert. I've never claimed to be a hockey expert. But going down 3-0 to come back to tie the game, to losing the game on potentially a missed call or at least a controversial call, if that doesn't scream Seattle sports, I don't know what does. Like,
yeah,
they're Kraken fit in right away. They're like, yeah, we're chaos hockey. That's what we're here for.
chaos style.
So anyways, that was fun. I appreciated that. But we've had some time. This is a Mariners baseball podcast. I'm Jacob, as always, here with my brother Nick, and we've given us some time to digest the last week and a half of the season.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I just finally found the video of the kicked puck incident.
Yeah,
and that's a kick.
I don't know what to tell. Like, I'm literally watching the game, and like, I'm sure if I was a hockey fan, I would have been outraged immediately. But I'm like sitting there watching, and this is my problem. Maybe I rely too much on authority and the man, and I think that the world is good, and maybe that's on me. It's got to be on me, right? Because I watch this and I see what happens, and they tell me
the goalie is like completely out of position though. So
okay, I asked because actually my boss is a big hockey guy. He's Canadian, so hockey guy.
Like, is he just not paying attention? I don't understand.
No,
what the goalie's doing there.
And I told him I was like, man, the goalie seemed like I'm not an expert, but for me, I feel like the goalie had a really rough game. I was like, what happened in most of these goals, I think at least 2 or 3 of them that he allowed, he was on one side of the net, and the person shooting or kicking the puck was on the other side of the net. And I was like, yeah, it's going to be really tough to get saves to block hockey pucks from going into hockey goals or nets or whatever you call them if you're on the wrong side. So I think it was a tough first showing for this guy. He's supposed to be really good. In theory, the Kraken are supposed to be a defensive first team, and with a really good goalie. So that was a tough first showing for him, considering.
Did you ever play? I don't even know what to call it, like street hockey, but like we did it in middle school. Did you ever get to do that?
I don't think so. Like hockey without skating, and like a little pink rubber ball.
I don't totally remember. I just remember like my 8th grade year or whatever. They like took us into that secondary gym at Sumner Middle, right? And we played some sort of like kind of like street hockey, but like in the gym there.
Yeah,
and
I don't remember.
A lot of people got hurt because
people got hurt
with sticks.
Yeah, I don't remember doing that. I've skated on ice, but never played hockey. I feel like I would have enjoyed it, except for.
I have not.
Yeah, I feel like it was something I would have actually enjoyed until I saw the dudes, and they're all handsome guys. But then when they smile, and they have bad smiles, they have terrible smiles, like missing teeth. Their teeth are fucked up.
Player
like,
smiles.
Yeah, I mean, I knew the cliche, right? But I just assumed, like most cliches, it wasn't completely true. Like, no, these guys have absolutely destroyed insides of their faces. A lot of them pretty handsome dudes, but inside, their teeth are absolutely fucked.
Well, it's pretty funny, I gotta tell you.
Yeah, so that's the game. I'm glad that you looked at that and saw that, and as someone who probably couldn't give 2 craps about hockey, it was just interesting. I mean, me again. I just trusted that the system would work. They told me, the announcers said, you are not allowed to kick a puck into the goal and have it count as a goal. I look at the play, and it kicks the puck, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be waved off 3-3. And that's just not the way it went. I will say, it did not decide.
Hockey?
I think that I believe that they play a short overtime period with one less player on the ice for each team. And then they do shootouts. Where it's
so it just comes down to a fucking shooting match, like who can get it in, right?
Yeah, I believe that they do shootouts if it's tied after the short overtime period.
That's funny. I get it.
Honestly, biggest problem with hockey, the intermissions, there's 2 of them. They essentially have 2 halftimes in hockey, and they're 15 minutes each. The periods, they play 3 periods, and they're 20 minutes each. These guys play for an hour, and they have 2 15 minutes. They essentially have a 30-minute halftime after playing for an hour. Like,
That's
I was
weird.
sitting there on these intermissions, and I was like, dude, this is so long. This is so long. Like, why is this taking so long? This is, like, I'm thinking, like, in between quarters in football, it's, like, less than 5 minutes. I mean, in football, their halftime...
Excuse me.
In football, their halftime is 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Hockey gets 2 halftimes. It was insane. I was like, this is taking so long.
Maybe this is like a hot take, but I always feel like even the halftime in football is like too long.
Oh, 100%. Halftime in football is way too long.
As a spectator, like, holy shit, I don't want to fucking sit here for that long.
But at least there's only one of them, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine 2 halftimes? 2 football halftimes?
I would never watch a game.
I mean, I still enjoyed it. I'm a hockey fan now. I've converted. You're gonna see me. It lines up actually perfectly. I think that hockey is actually secretly the perfect sport for me.
What was that?
Because it just lines up perfectly with baseball.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I mean, it starts.
Football kind of does that too as well.
I mean, there's so much overlap though. At least in the fall, like if you want to, the thing about football is it's only on the weekends, right? But like if your team is making a postseason run, I mean, you're gonna have a conflict there.
I don't know if I've already said this, but I wanted to get into watching tennis during the off seasons.
Okay.
But I just have no idea how, because I don't have cable, so I can't just like go to the tennis channel and just watch a match, right?
Right. Actually, if you get Sling,
no idea how to like stream it.
We actually get the tennis channel on our Sling package, and it's pretty awesome. I actually like watching it. Obviously, all the big tournaments are all on ESPN, and if you go to the ESPN app, all of the games essentially they have like a camera and a broadcast team on like each court. So what's going to be the next one here? The U.S. Open. Oh, I think it's delayed. Usually the U.S. Open is in August. Tennis.
Which would have been over by now, because it's October.
I'm trying to think, but I think it got bounced back. When is it being
played? 2 months?
When is it being played this year? U.S. Open. Yeah, everything is like really, and then usually their off season is actually in the winter. When is the 2021 U.S. Open? It was already played. August 30th through September 12th. And who won? Daniel Medvedev won. So yes, I think they played it maybe like half a month late. So the next big tennis tournament, well, I think they actually have their end of the year tennis tournament, like the ATP Championship. Yes, Sunday, the ATP Tour Finals start Sunday, November 14th and end on the 21st. But the next Grand Slam, I think, is the Australian Open, and traditionally that's actually played in January. Because
how do you find that kind of information? Am I just stupid?
I mean, I just know when it is because I've watched tennis. Australian Open 2022 is going to be January 17th through 30th. And all the games will be on ESPN.
Official Men's Tennis Pro Tour.
Yeah, that's the ATP or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The off-season show just becomes me Googling things while you talk about them.
Anyways, I mean, we've almost gone 15 minutes and haven't talked any Mariners baseball, so...
No, I haven't.
We might as well try it. Okay, so...
Okay, before we go into this, I gotta figure out what's going on this tennis website. So when I go down to rankings, and it's got like their total points, so these are the top 10 players in the world right now?
Probably. You went to the ATP website?
Top 16, yeah.
You could probably find everyone
Whoever
there.
accumulates the most points becomes like the season winner, or like wins the title?
No, and you can see the checkpoints, the check marks next to their name, right?
Does that mean they've qualified for Wimbledon?
No, it means they've qualified for the ATP Tour Finals. I believe only the top 8 players qualify for the ATP Tour Finals.
Gotcha. I didn't realize Djokovic was still so good.
Oh yeah, he's absolutely dominating. I think he's won like 7 of the last 8 Grand Slam tournaments or something like that. Like he's absolutely dominating. Like 6 of the last 8.
I know Federer's not really. Is he not playing, or is he just not very good anymore?
He's definitely injured for a little bit. / he's getting older.
Oh wow, Nadal's 35 now. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the way this works actually is that your point totals roll over, I think, for like the last 12 or 18 months. Like whatever your point total is here is how much you've accumulated over the last like 18 months or something like that. Yeah. And so potentially you can actually lose points going into a tournament. Like if you play the same tournament, so like say you play Wimbledon and you won it last year. If you like lose in the 3rd round this year, you're actually going to lose points for that tournament because you lose all the points that you gained last year by winning, and then you gain that like fewer points that you would have got. So like that's kind of how it works. It's kind of like a rolling yearly period basically, where once it's like if you like won a tournament and you don't play in it next year, like that week you're actually going to lose a bunch of your points. And the points never reset. Like the points don't reset at 0 every year. Yeah. It just keeps going, and however many points you have at this point in like the last 12 months is what your point total is. And so if after 12 months comes around, the points that you had go off, and you can drop down in ranking, yada yada, if you're not like consistently playing tournaments or whatever. Yeah. I think it's either the last year or the last 2 years. I'm not entirely sure how the point system works.
Oh, but I mean, I'll just have to start watching. I don't know how to find when I can watch, or how to find out good game, or good matches.
Yeah, I mean, it's just honestly, you just gotta watch. They'll have the schedule, and they always have the primetime matches on ESPN during the Grand Slam tournaments. But they always have stuff going. If you had Tennis Channel, we have it on Sling. And they just always have matches on because it's always the middle of the day somewhere in the world.
Yeah. They're always playing tennis somewhere?
Yeah, pretty much.
Interesting. All right.
Much. All right. And is that non-Mariners sports talk?
I think so.
Okay.
Unless you have more to talk about.
Not really. I mean,
the
Kraken have only played one game. They play again tomorrow. Unfortunately, that game is not on ESPN Plus, and it's only on Root Sports. And unfortunately, this is another gripe of mine. You know how MLB, you can purchase MLB TV and have the ability to watch every single game?
Yeah, you don't get to watch postseason live.
Right, but you can't do. Hockey doesn't have a thing like that where you can just purchase and be like, I want to purchase the ability to watch all the Kraken games out of your market or whatever, right?
Yeah.
In America, so in Canada, you actually can purchase a package like that. They have essentially MLB TV, but for hockey. In the United States, you have to either have the local access, so their Kraken are on Root Sports, so you'd be able to go to mom and dad's house and watch it.
Okay, but you have my NordVPN, so you can just get the subscription and then tune into NordVPN and then watch any game anytime.
Can you watch Root Sports online?
Sort of.
And so obviously, so the other option is that ESPN has a bunch of hockey games, but they don't have all the hockey games. So for example, ESPN actually on their main flagship station showed the Kraken game yesterday. They're not showing the Thursday game, and they just don't have it available, but they have the Saturday and the Monday game they're going to be showing on ESPN Plus, and they're just going to be showing Root Sports broadcast feed on ESPN Plus. So unless there's a way to watch Root Sports, literally the only place, if you live in the United States, the only place that you can watch the Kraken is if you live in the Northwest and have Root Sports.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you can watch Root Sports online. I don't know.
I mean, but weren't you talking about that Canadian streaming service that you could watch anything from anywhere?
But you have to you do have to purchase it if you buy that. It's called NHL Center Ice or NHL TV or something like that.
I mean, but if you wanted to, you could do that and then just use the VPN to make
myself in Canada.
Yeah, put yourself in Canada, and then you can watch the games live.
The only problem with that is it's not really worth it because like 70 to 80% of the games are going to be on ESPN Plus, which I already pay for.
Gotcha.
So I'd be paying full price to only get access.
20%, 30%.
Yeah, to only get access to 20% of the games that I'm missing.
Gotcha.
Because out of the 4 games this week, they're showing 3 of them on ESPN Plus. So it doesn't. I don't know. It just like maybe we'll see. I don't know. Just doesn't seem financially sound decision to make there.
Yeah, I agree. No, I mean, you're right.
It's okay, though. We'll survive. Sure, the Krakens will get their first win without me. It's cool. It's cool. I'm not hurt. I'm not hurt at all. Anyways.
All right. Mariner stuff.
Yes.
What do you want to talk about?
We've given ourselves... So, obviously, we took this break. We could have, and maybe should have just done this right after. But I don't know about you, but definitely the end of this season and obviously that last game, and obviously for reasons that we'll talk about, was a pretty emotional ending to the season.
Pretty disheartening.
And just everything, right? And so I thought it was smart to give us some time to breathe, see what happens, make sure, digest everything. That way we can come and look at it with new eyes. It's been 10 days since the season ended. And
yeah, just about there.
Yeah, and here we are. I mean, we're living in a post regular season MLB 2021 world. The Seattle Mariners did not make the postseason despite giving it their best efforts. They fell short. But it was a hell of a ride. That's my initial feeling. Was it a hell of a ride for you? Because it was a hell of a ride for me.
It was one hell of a ride. I feel like going into the last 2 weeks of the season, there was big doubts, right? But then
we knew it was going to be tough.
Oh, for sure.
We knew it was going to be tough.
Sure,
we knew it was not going to be easy. We knew we were going to have to play out of our minds.
But it came down to this 3-game sprint against 3 different teams, right? And our 3 teams, the one team that we had to beat 3 times was the Angels.
Yeah.
Realistically, we had to beat them. Was it all 3 out of 3 games, or was
it essentially would have required us to finish the season. At least since our last podcast, it would have required us to finish
3 out of 3.
In order to get into the postseason, we would have had to finish the season 9-1. Or going all the way back 13-1. We would have had to go on 13-1 to finish off the season. We ended up going 11-3. Incredibly respectable.
Absolutely
we were in a hole.
Yeah, no,
we stuck in it until the thing that's great about this
they
is
put themselves in the position 3 days away from the end of the season to make the postseason, and all we had to do was beat the fucking Angels. All we had to do was sweep the Angels, which sweep any team. It's not easy ever, right?
Right, and they had a chance too. If you think they had a chance on the last game of the season, right? Obviously it ended up not working out that way because we needed either the Yankees or Red Sox to lose, and they both ended up winning. Mad sads to the Toronto Blue Jays because I kind of think that they were the best team of those 3 that were the Seattle Mariners. And so, super rough the way it ended for them because they actually got the win on the last day of the season, unlike us, and they didn't get any help from the Nationals or the Rays in beating Boston or the Yankees, respectively. Anyways, so last time we potted, we had come off of... I think we just got to break it down series by series. The last time we potted...
Pouted.
Listen, we potted.
Then we pouted.
We had just swept, in a 4-game series, the Oakland Athletics of Oakland.
Oakland Athletics of Oakland.
Yes.
Who play in California.
The California Athletics. Future Las Vegas Athletics.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're again, and I think what did we say? I think you and I had said Did we say we needed to go 9-1 over the last stretch, or not 9-1? It would have been 8. It would have been 8-1.
I think so. I think we said something along the lines of we can only afford to lose 1, maybe 2 games.
I want to say we said 2.
We only could have won 1.
I know. I want to say we said 2.
Lost 1.
Yeah, I want to say that we said 2 games. And the thing that's really brutal about that just gives you no margin of error. Like, we were wrong. I think I was thinking to us, like, we can lose 2 games and we'll at least tie.
Yep.
Let alone, I was thinking, like, there's a good chance that if we only lose 2 games, we're just, like, in straight up. Because someone else is probably going to lose. Like, there's a good chance someone's going to go 5-4, 4-5, something like in one of the Red Sox or anyone, right?
I think one of the big storylines we were pushing is that the Yankees were having a really hard schedule, so that if they did make the postseason, fucking congrats to them. And honestly, fucking congrats to them, because they did make it, right?
I mean, so the thing is that they had the biggest lead. I want to say over that stretch, they actually went 6-3 or something like that. Like, I think they had the same, obviously good. They won the rest. I think they still technically lost the Rays series, but it was still good for them. Like, they finished strong. They had to win on that last day, yada yada, whatever happened, blah blah blah. But the fact of the matter is that we just absolutely got no help. Like, we were already thinking, like, I was thinking worst case scenario, we have to go 6-2. I don't know, 7-2, right? Which is a tall task. But in reality, we had to go 8-1 over those last 9 games. That's insane. Like, that's too much to ask for. I mean, if you had told me, like, that was the requirement, we had to go 8-1, I'd been like, yeah, there's no chance we're going to make the postseason. Like, that's too much to ask for. Essentially, you're asking us to go 12-1 over the last 4 series of the season. Like, that's
I mean,
that's
they kind of
much.
already were defying all odds to just be there. So to pull it off and make it work and everything was just... It's too much to ask.
Yeah. And they got as close as they could. It just wasn't in the cards. But anyways, that first series against the Angels, a team that I feel like we had played pretty well against all season, we ended up winning that first game behind... Who was pitching? I want to say... Logan Gilbert had a pretty so-so start, gave up 4 runs over 5 innings. But in the story that you're going to, I think, hear over the last week of this season is how dominant and clutch our bullpen was.
Yeah.
From Misowitz, Steckenrider, Seawald, Casey Sadler, like, they were locked down nuts for the most part. They're the ones that got us this point in the season. You know, Scott Service wore those boys out, and they are still killing it up until the last game of the season, up until we were essentially eliminated in the middle of our game. On that last Sunday. But yeah, that first game, we won that one. Not much of note there. I want to say, it was big games from both Ty France and Mitch Haniger. That's something else you're going to hear big time. I think another theme, too, is probably how non-existent, and this is a guy we're going to talk about for completely other reasons, Kyle Seager was over the last week and a half of the season. Especially that last series against the Angels. It was obviously very emotional for him.
That he was, what do you want to call it, slumping in our 3-hole?
Yeah, the 4-hole, the cleanup spot.
Maybe he was playing cleanup most of the
Yeah, because it was JP, Ty France, Mitch Haniger, Kyle Seager. Pretty much every day.
Yeah. Seems like, and I know this is like, obviously something, or how do I say this right? I know this is like obvious, especially at the end of the season, but it was just felt like one of those moments where we were really missing Kyle Lewis.
Yes,
and not having him
I 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that.
Fucking brutal.
And like, respect to baseball media, that's kind of been the narrative, where it's the senses of the Mariners is like, look at what they did without their Rookie of the Year, basically.
Yeah.
Without the reigning Rookie of the Year, look what these guys were able to accomplish. And it's very important that you say that, because if you look at this lineup, not only were we missing Kyle Lewis, that would have been huge to have him in the 4 spot.
Dylan Moore, you had a slumping Kyle Seager.
Yes, but the bottom of the order, that's another thing too, the bottom of the order was so bad. Literally,
yep.
Abraham Toro, non-existent. Dylan Moore, non-existent. Yep. Jake Fraley struggled himself. The only bright spot in the last week of the season, this was really the last whole month of the season, Jared Kelenic. And he was absolutely fantastic. But the problem is when you surround him by outs, essentially. Like, you put 2 outs in front of him with Luis Torrens and Abraham Toro, 2 outs behind him with Tom Murphy, Dylan Moore, Cal Raleigh, Jake Fraley, whatever. It's just like, it doesn't matter how many hits Jared gets. It just doesn't, like... I mean, he was obviously able to score. They were able to rally some stuff together in certain games. But that's going to be the big theme of, this first game against the Angels is how the end of the season went. It was J.P. Crawford, Ty France, Mitch Haniger really well. The rest of the lineup struggling outside of Jared Kelenic. Anyways, that was the first game. Then we get into the second game. This is probably the most disappointing game for me, especially of our 3 losses. That's up for debate, because it's very potential that our first loss again in the last series against the Angels was the most disappointing, just because the offense was just nowhere to be found. But in this one, if you remember correctly, Tyler Anderson only made it through 2 innings, giving up 9 runs. I mean, he came out in the 3rd inning.
Yeah, Tyler Anderson
couldn't get a single
really
out.
Rough.
He got absolutely shelled. And he did have a really rough... The 2 games... Well, that's not entirely true, right? He pitched an absolutely nuts on the table.
Yeah, he filled in for Yusei Kikuchi really, really well. And then, unfortunately, in his next outing that he was scheduled for, he kind of imploded.
Yeah.
But he was only pitching on, 2 days rest.
Yeah, the Angels just simply had his number, right? In this first game against the Angels, in 2+ innings... He ends up giving up 9 earned runs. Johan Ramirez comes in, gives up another 2 runs. Justice Sheffield, I think in his last outing of the season for us, gives up 3 more runs. We end up giving up 4 runs. Never had a chance in this game. It's just tough. It's just tough. Like, we lose 14-1. I think there's an argument that this is the most disappointing loss of this 6-3 stretch. But it's up for debate. I don't know. What did you feel about this game? Like, how deflating was it when you're just like, know that we can only afford 2 losses? Like, that was our thought process, right? Is that you can only afford 2, maybe you can afford 3 losses if the other teams don't do as well either. Like, you still have to have the other teams lose 2 more games than you lose. So if you lose 3 games, you need them to lose 4 or 5, right? So when this blowout happens and Tyler Anderson, someone that's been so solid since joining the Mariners, just gets lit up like this, like, what was your feeling? Like, was this the most disappointing loss for you of that last week?
Maybe. I don't know. The one we're talking about is the game 1 against the Angels, right?
We're talking game 2 at the Angels.
They won the game 2. So they lost game 1.
No. I'm back at the first. I'm back at the first series against the Angels. That was in Anaheim.
Oh, man.
That was the one
that we have these conversations. I have the schedule pulled up, but my app's not letting me pull it up because.
That was the one that we lost 14-1.
Yeah, unfortunate. I actually think the one that really killed me was the game 1 of the final series of the year.
Yes, I actually think that's another one. I want to get there. Okay, so we'll table that. This was a rough game. Then we go into, I can't remember if I have anything of note. We ended up winning 5-1 in the last game at Anaheim. At the time, that put us at 86-70, and we had won that series. We went 2-1. And then obviously looking at what everyone else did, it became very clear that we could probably only lose 1 more game this season.
Yeah.
Seeing where everyone else was at that point. So in that game, let's see who it was. Jake Fraley did have 3 RBIs in that game. Jared Kelenic had an RBI. Mitch Haniger had an RBI as the DH. Looks like Marco Gonzalez pitched that game. He went 7 innings, only giving up 1 run. I think that was on a solo homer too. It was on a solo homer. So Marco Gonzalez was absolutely nuts, just nuts on the table. And if there's a guy who is maybe our second half MVP who's not named Ty France or Mitch Haniger, it has to be Marco Gonzalez, right?
I would agree with that. I mean,
the second half MVP. Like, if there was anyone
comeback player of the year.
Yeah, his turnaround from first half to second half was the exact inverse of Yusei's first half to second half. Like, where Yusei imploded in the second half, Marco Gonzalez was absolute nails. I think he ended up lowering his ERA down to like below 4 by the end of the season, something like that.
Yeah, I think he was settled at around 3.8.
Yeah, so I mean, after how like his ERA was like 6 plus. I want to say in the first half of the season, his ERA was like 6 plus or something like that. So for him to just like chip that down in the second half of the season, like this is a totally conversation for another podcast, but I'm actually absolutely excited for what Marco's going to bring next season as like the leader, the guy that he knows like this is the time, right? This is the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think Marco's got a couple more good years ahead of him. Obviously, you wanted more from him at the beginning of the year, but seeing he ended on a good note this season, I wouldn't expect anything other than him jumping right back into it.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that in the first season, he missed so much time due to the first half of the season. He missed so much time due to injury. He had the birth of his child.
Yeah.
He had other family drama. Like, it's hard to fault him for baseball not, for either missing games or baseball not being number one on his list in the first half of the season. Like, I don't blame Marco at all. Not at all.
No. I mean, it's not something like... I also got to really commend the team for not being on the COVID IL too much.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, we had our little skit there with the bullpen.
Yeah, it was early in the season.
Other than that, I can't recall a single COVID IL event other than those bullpen players, right?
No, it was early in the season, and I think they got those guys straight or got rid of them. So, good on them. Good on them. I mean, if you look at someone like the Boston Red Sox, like that almost derailed the end of their season. I mean, they're a team that's now in the they're now in the championship, the AL Championship Series. So, whatever, like they can laugh at it now, but it almost derailed the whole end of their season, right?
Yeah, the Mariners kind of gave them. What's the right way to phrase this? They threw the life vests at the sinking ship or out at the sinking passengers, right? Because literally the week or the 10-day IL that they had for their COVID players, the Mariners faced the Red Sox and then got swept by the Red Sox when they didn't have a bullpen.
Yeah, that was obviously disappointing, and we've documented that in great detail. Anyways, so we go 2-1. We go 2-1 at the Athletics, and we're pretty much staring down the last 6 games of the season. We're thinking we can probably only lose once. Little did we know, we couldn't lose at all.
Yep.
Well, who knew? Who knew? We had to go 6-0 per victory.
Oh no.
It started off really well. We absolutely smacked the shit out of Oakland in the first game, 13-4. The next game, we ended up winning 4-2 in a close contest, and I want to say, was that the Tyler Anderson game?
Yeah.
That was the Tyler Anderson game. Absolute credit to Tyler Anderson. Gets absolutely shelled. I mean, he only pitched 2+ innings at the Angels, so he comes in on short rest, takes Kikuchi's spot, and if this doesn't make Scott Service the manager of the year, I don't know what will. He literally goes, and he goes, you know what, Kikuchi? You did well for us, but you don't got it right now. And this is what we've always, at least I think the number one criticism of Scott Service had been in his first years as manager of the Seattle Mariners, is that he didn't know how to manage his pitchers. He didn't know when you needed to cut ties, when you needed to just tell a guy like, yeah, you don't got it, you're not going to pitch for us, I'm pulling you out of the game early, yada, 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 right?
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard. It's hard to know.
Oh, 100%. Like, this is like your guy. Like, to go to Kikuchi, someone who is one of your guys, one of your team leaders, is your all-star, and to be like, you know what, you just don't have it right now. You say, I'm shutting you down for the season, and we'll get you next season. Like, we'll see where it goes from here. Right?
Unfortunately, we have to give him another opportunity next year because he has a player option. But
I'm sure he'll be fine. I mean, he'll technically probably be overpaid, but I'm sure he'll be absolutely adequate. Anyways, we got to give credit to Tyler Anderson in this game because he comes in on short rest after getting absolutely shelled by the Anaheim Angels. Los Angeles Angels, whatever, of Anaheim. That's not what they're called.
Call them whatever you want.
And he absolutely shows up 4 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned run on a solo home run. And it was an amazing performance. To go 4 innings, giving up only 2 hits, one of them the only earned run on a solo home run. And who was it? It was like a Matt Kemp home run or something like that. Like some random dude.
Tony Kemp.
Yeah, Tony Kemp. Some random dude who like never hits home runs. Yeah. Yes, you're right. Tony Kemp. Just a random dude who like never hits home runs, just gets into one on you.
He fucking crushed that ball too.
He did crush that ball. Like the thing is those guys will just run into one every once in a while. Like, what are you gonna do, right?
Kind of like when J.P. Crawford hits a home run. Like, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Like, oh, wow, that's due. Anyways, dude, credit to Tyler Anderson. One person before I skip over, and this just goes to show you, like, we're talking. I mean, we'll get to the lineup. But we're talking so much about the pitching right now. That first game, Chris Flexen, 5 innings pitched, 4 earned runs, gets the win, only gives up 1 home run, 6 strikeouts. Chris Flexen, definitely, I know I've given you credit, and I'm going to give you credit again. You called that Chris Flexen was an absolute stud. No team won more games at home than the Mariners did when Chris Flexen started. No starting pitcher had led his team to more wins. Like, Chris Flexen obviously didn't get the wins, but the Mariners won 22 times when Chris Flexen pitched at home this season, which is the most in the major leagues by, I think, like 3 games. So even though
he's really turned his career around.
Even though he didn't get all these wins, I mean, he's definitely someone who's locked into the lineup, right? Whereas in my mind, I know you were higher on him, but in my mind, I'm like, we'll see how the Chris Flexen experience goes. Like, this will be a good experiment. Let's see what happens. And dude was actually absolutely nuts. What did he go on the season? Like 15 and 6?
4 and 6.
Yeah, 3-6-1, 12 or 15 and 14 and 6.
14 and 6.
Yeah, 14 and 6. Absolutely nuts. Like, credit to him. I mean, we're probably not going to talk about him again, at least until the next podcast. But
I think it's worth noting. I didn't know about this, but the MLB app has Chris Flexen's official nickname as Big Baby.
I've heard that. That was like one of the talking points on like a pregame show or something like that.
Why?
And they're
Why is he the Big Baby? Is it because he's so mad at himself whenever he like?
No, he actually said this. So I think this was actually on a YouTube game. I don't think he watched any of the YouTube games, like the Wednesday YouTube games.
I watched the first one and then I turned them off afterwards. It was too much. Because
they're terrible, right? They were featured and they interviewed Chris Flexen, and I think it was because, you know how he has a little bit of facial hair? I guess without it, he has really bad baby face, especially when he was younger with the Mets. I think he said he got the nickname when he was with the Mets. They'd call him
Big Baby.
Big Baby because he had really bad baby face when he didn't have his scruff. So apparently that's why he has his scruff now, because if he shaves, he looks like a big baby.
Funny. Shave,
yeah, they had asked him about that in one of those godforsaken YouTube games. Those tainted events. Anyways, so we win the first 2 games against Oakland.
Baseball broadcast.
Yeah, tainted broadcast. And then we win the last game against Oakland again. The Mariners win 4-2, end up sweeping the Oakland Athletics. What happened in this game? Oh yeah, Logan Gilbert pitched 5 1/3 innings, giving up 1 run on a solo home run. Again, that's a theme, is that the Mariners, even when they got people on base, they handled it just fine. They only gave up solo home runs for the most part, right? And that was a big part of what got them this far. Let's see, in this game, Ty France had an RBI. Jared Kelenic had 2 RBIs. Did he have a home run that game? I'm not sure. No. Not the point.
Kelenic wasn't in too many home runs, but...
Yeah, Abraham Toro. He definitely kind of lost his power. I mean, I'm sure he'll get it back at some point, but he was known as like a power guy.
Surprisingly, Jared Kelenic was one of the best power hitters on the team. Like, I think he ended the season with 16 home runs, which would be in our top 5. Yeah. Let's see. Let me fact check that.
Oh yeah, this game. Oh yeah, Abraham Toro. Abraham Toro, I think, had a late home run in this game to kind of give us the gap, to kind of give us a little bit of a lead. Yeah, insurance run. He had an insurance run home run, I think, in the 8th. Pretty much the only thing Abraham Toro did over this stretch. So, good on him. Not sure if he's the solution at second base. We'll have to talk that out. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely going to need probably a middle infield acquisition. And I could see Abraham Toro being like a fifth infielder kind of situation.
Right. So, anyways, we've done it. At this point, Nick, it's hard to think that we haven't done it, right? The Mariners have swept the Oakland Athletics, and if I remember correctly, after this sweep, we were actually in a playoff spot. Like, we were tied with the Red Sox for a playoff spot. I think I had even texted you, like, advantage chaos ball. Like, this is our time. This is our chance. The Los Angeles Angels come into town, and it all kind of goes downhill. And this is the series that's going to be the toughest to talk about. I think for me, this is the most disappointing game because in the first game of the series, in the final series against the Angels, the Mariners end up losing 2-1 off of a great pitching performance from Marco Gonzalez. Marco Gonzalez went 6 innings, only gave up 3 hits. Unfortunately, walks really hurt him in this game. He ended up giving 2 runs off of a couple walks, basically. He got people on the base, and then clutch hitting from Anaheim got them in. I think one of my nemesis... I had developed a few nemesi, if that's the correct word for it.
Nemesis?
Over... I guess this wasn't the game wasn't a game where Jared Walsh kind of went off, but Jared Walsh is definitely one of the guys that kind of, I was like, dude, you're killing me, dude.
Yeah, oh my god, Jared Walsh, Mariner killer, man. What the fuck?
This first game, it was Brandon Marsh who got both the RBIs. I even want to think it was off of 1 hit. It was like 2 walks. It was like walk, and then Brandon Marsh had like a 2 RBI double or something like that off of Marco. But really his only mistake of the night, and if you're thinking like, I'm getting 6 innings, 2 runs out of Marco Gonzalez, you're like, we're winning this game, right?
For sure.
The Mariners get absolutely shut down by Angels pitching. And honestly, the big thing is going to be that the Mariners really struggled, especially in this first and last game, against the Angels bullpen. So Jose Suarez, he ended up going 5 innings, giving up 1 earned run in this game. And then Mike Myers, Jose Quinhada, Steve Cishek. Was
Canseco.
that?
Jose Canseco.
Steve Cishek, and then Raisel Iglesias, who absolutely, another one of my nemesis. Raisel Iglesias was absolutely nuts against us. Anyways, they shut us down. We end up losing just all the air. I think because Boston even won their first game. No, did Boston lose? Yes, no, Boston... No. Boston must have won.
No, they swept the Nationals.
Did they sweep the Nationals?
Why
And I think
the Nationals is why we lost.
Part of the problem is that the Nationals were in every game, and I think even had a lead in every single game. They weren't able to shut the door on the Boston Red Sox. So
they
credit
really
to them.
Let us down.
Yeah, credit to them.
So.
But yeah, the Angels beat us in that game off of just an absolutely stagnant offense. Where did our run come from? A Jared Kelenic RBI. Double, an RBI double. So hitting in Abraham Toro. Oh no, did he hit in Luis Torrens? I think he hit in Luis Torrens. Luis Torrens got a triple, and then Jared Kelenic hit him in.
That sounds right. Yeah, that was game.
Or did we not? No. I think we actually got Luis Torrens got a triple. Yeah, it was Abraham Toro who scored. I think Luis Torrens in that game had a leadoff triple, and we were unable to score him, like late in the game. I'm almost certain that's what happened now. Yeah, in this game it was Jared Kelenic. Yeah, Abraham Toro got a single, and then Jared Kelenic, or he either got a single or a base on balls, and then Jared Kelenic hit a double, and Abraham Toro went first to home scoring. That was our only run we scored that game. Definitely what was disappointing, if I remember correctly in this game, and what makes it so disappointing, is we had scoring opportunities. We had runners on in scoring position in both the 7th and 8th innings, if I remember correctly. I want to say in the 7th inning, Kyle Seager... No. I think it was the 9th inning Kyle Seager hit It was the 8th and the 9th inning. Sorry. I'm remembering correctly now. It was the 8th and the 9th inning. In the 8th inning, Luis Torrens had a leadoff triple, and the Mariners failed to score him. So depressing. So freaking depressing. And then, yeah, it was a leadoff triple. They walked Toro. Kelenic got out. Tom Murphy walked, the bases loaded, and then either Dylan Moore hit into a double play. No, I think Dylan Moore got out and J.P. Crawford got out, unable to score. So a leadoff triple, guy at third, no outs, and then in the next frame, Ty France got out, Mitch Haniger got out, Kyle Seager got a 2-out double, and then Luis Torrens wasn't able to hit him in. So that was to have opportunities to tie the game, especially the way that went down. No, actually, I want to say what happened in that game was actually there was like a hit that Luis Torrens got out at home plate after that triple because it was like a really like a swinging bunt basically. And I'm almost certain the 9th inning, like J.P. Crawford couldn't drive him in, Ty France couldn't drive him in, Mitch Haniger couldn't drive him in, and then in the 9th inning, Kyle Seager had a leadoff double, Luis Torrens couldn't get him in, Abraham Toro couldn't get him in, and then Jared Kelenic ended the game. Almost certain that's the way it happened. And it was just to have opportunities like that in the 8th and the 9th inning when you have to get a win was just so deflating. I think it was after that game I was like, I don't know if we can. I think it's going to be really tough. It's going to be really tough to make the postseason. And sure enough, that was technically the loss that did us in, right?
Yeah, technically. I just wish that they play I don't know. I wish they played more competitively in the last series. It just felt like something about like their fire just went out after the first game against the Angels, and I don't really understand why. And they like tried to get it looked like they kind of got it back with the late game heroics of Mitch Haniger and everybody in the second game.
Right.
But I almost feel like the team knew going into the third game that their chances of making the playoffs were like not good.
Right.
And especially like when they started falling behind in that third game, the lights went out, nobody was home, whatever you want to say, like they just completely gave up and they were just like, well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, so speaking
Which is
of
why
that,
we need to win that first game.
Yeah, speaking of that second game, it's the Mitch Haniger game, right? I mean, was this the most, so coming off maybe the most disappointing loss of potentially even the entire season, was this the most exciting? Experience. This was the most exciting series of the season, right? Or the most exciting game of the season?
Well, most exciting game of the season for sure. I mean, the most exciting series would probably be like just the Oakland series right before, where they had to sweep them, and they did, right?
Yeah, no, I definitely meant most exciting game. So this game was huge, not only because it secured our 90th win of the season, the number we ended up finishing at. Like, to get 90 wins in a season is incredibly impressive. Yep. It's a great, if you get 90 wins in a season, you had a really good season no matter what happens, right? No matter what happens, you had a good season. Anyways, Mitch Haniger, the baseball messiah that he is, he ends up getting 5 RBIs in this game. He gets, I want to say, a solo home run in the third. How many home runs did he have in this game?
2.
He had 2, right? I think he had a solo home run in the third, a 2-run home run in the 5th, a 2-run bomb in the 5th, and then he had a 2-run double in the 8th, or a 2-run single in the 8th, something like that. And then obviously Kyle Seager was able to drive one more run in the 8th. We ended up winning that game 6-4. And that 8th inning was so massive because as a Mariners fan, it was so hard not to be deflated. We were winning that game 3-1 going into the top of the 8th inning. We have our lockdown bullpen. Our lockdown bullpen coming in, and freaking Jared freaking Walsh, who had a game for himself, right? If it wasn't for Mitch Haniger, like, everyone would be like, wow, Jared Walsh, what a god. He had 3 RBIs in this game. He ended up hitting a 3-run bomb, I believe, right? Off of Paul Sewald, which was absolutely shocking. It was absolutely, like, to see Paul Sewald blow the lead in such an important game for us was like, what just happened? Paul Sewald, like, here's the thing.
Sewald looked pretty shook too.
And he was already, you could tell coming into the game, he did not have his best stuff. And this is where Jerry, this has always been, I really like Jerry Dipoto as a manager. This has been my one kind of gripe with him, is that he rides bullpen arms. Like, he'll choose like 4 guys, and he'll absolutely ride them until the wheels fall off. Unfortunately for Paul Sewald,
it's kind of the way to do it. Like, the way
I mean, if you have good arms, I mean, the reality is that these guys had nuts.
If someone's hot, let them go.
Yeah, I mean, right? Casey Sadler set a Mariners record for scoreless outings in a row at like 20-something, right? Casey Sadler had an ERA of .69 this season. Drew Steckenrider was a 2.0. Paul Sewald was a 3.0. Like, if there's any doubt, like, I don't think people really recognize it that much. Like, to me, the Mariners had the best bullpen in baseball this season.
Definitely top 5. I mean, the back half of that bullpen is incredible. Yeah. I mean, there's obviously the weak side of it with, like, Sean Doolittle at the end of the season. We're just throwing guys in there randomly. Like,
I mean, could you imagine, though, if we had, like, a lockdown starting rotation? Duggar. If we had a starting rotation that can consistently go 6 innings, how many more games we would have won?
Yeah.
Because...
Well, I mean, so when you look at the pitching side of the ball, right, what you really need is the strong starting pitching and then the back half of your bullpen to be lights out. And that's what the Mariners had, right?
Yeah.
That's why they stayed so competitive the entire year.
100%. Anyways,
it's really funny that the back half of the bullpen was so good, considering it wasn't the guys that Dipoto went out and got from other organizations. So Rafael Montero turned out to be terrible.
Right. Ken Giles was injured.
Keenan Middleton.
Keenan Middleton, he had a good first half of the season.
And then he turned out to be terrible in the second half.
Right.
Ken Giles was just out for the season, as we always knew he was going to be.
Right.
And, yeah. I mean, when you look at the star performers, they were not the guys we thought they were going to be, right?
Yeah. And the old baseball adage, like, walks just come back to hurt you. We saw this in this game with Paul Sewald. He ends up walking 2 batters, only gives up 1 hit in the inning. However, it was a 3-run home run to Jared Walsh because he had walked 2 batters. And then the Mariners are looking like their postseason hopes are on the brink of extinction. Little did we know, it wasn't going to matter anyways. But they rally. Just like they've done all year. They score late. They rally in the 8th inning. Mitch Haniger hits a huge bases loaded 2-run double. And freaking puts himself into history. Like, here's the thing. I honestly think what's going to be the most important thing about this season and this game is that I'm willing to bet that the Mariners and Jerry Dipoto are going to commit themselves big to Mitch Haniger.
Mitch Haniger extension? Oh,
I think they're going to
better.
I think that they're going to commit themselves big. I think that there was a lot of discussion, especially coming into the season. Remember, the discussion was, do the Mariners trade Mitch Haniger? Is Mitch Haniger going to be good? He hasn't played baseball in a year and a half, right?
No, I think that was always their plan, to give them a contract extension after he came back from his injury. I think they just wanted
I don't know if he came back and wasn't very good. Would they have?
Well, exactly. No. Of course not. But they wanted to see. I don't think they were in doubt about whether Mitch Haniger was going to be good or not coming back from his injury. I think they wanted to see how good he was going to be, see how much money they needed to offer him, because they weren't just going to offer him $200 million to, like, sit out a season and then continue playing, right?
Yeah, I think if anything,
that Mitch Haniger will get a 5, 6, 7 year contract extension.
I think so too. I think he's going to get, if not at the start of this season, sometime maybe mid-season or something like that.
I think it doesn't take that long. I hope they do it as soon as possible.
I would agree, but I think that the Mariners, if it wasn't this game that did it, it's at least the whole season, right? I mean, Mitch Haniger should have been an All-Star this season. He should have been the Mariners representative at the All-Star game. He was maybe... He was in the conversation for one of the best outfielders the entire season. There was no one really more consistent than him. I think hopefully what this does, and hopefully it's this game, hopefully the Jerry Dipoto or whoever it is realizes, like, Mitch Haniger should be the face of this franchise. There's going to be guys that are more and just because of their personality, right? They're more like Mitch Haniger is someone who isn't all about the celebrity. He's someone that doesn't necessarily want to be the face. He just wants to be the consistent guy. He wants to be a Kyle Seager type, right? Mitch Haniger wants to be.
We're going to need a Kyle Seager type in the outfield with the guys like Jared Kelenic, Julio Rodriguez coming up, who seem to be really fucking fired up. They almost need that like veteran mellow presence to help them.
Yeah, 100%. And I even apparently Scott Service said, or it was either Scott Service or I think it was actually J.P. Crawford that said that after that 8th inning when Paul Sewald gave up that home run, Mitch Haniger came into the dugout and said, "This is not over. We're going to win this game." And you always hear stories about that. You only ever hear those stories when the win actually happens. So yada yada. Don't, read into it whatever you want to read into it. Yada yada yada, right? But the fact of the matter is that with Kyle
Mitch was
Seager,
already 3 for 3 at that point, and with 3 for 3 with a walk, right?
Yeah,
so
but
he
also
was fucking feeling it. He knew if there was someone on, he was gonna drive him in for sure.
Right. But also, like, who knew? How did he? There's no way he could have even known that he was going to even get up in this inning or up in the rest of the game. I think the way it worked out is that if we had gone 6 straights out, he wouldn't even have seen the field the rest of the game. Anyways, not the point. But I think that this game solidifies. Obviously, there's other guys that are going to be the emotional leaders, the more outspoken guys, the J.P. Crawfords, the Jared Kelenics. Like, you can see, and this is something that really Jared Kelenic, I think, came into, is that dude, credit to Jared Kelenic, he has his issues in his baseball game. Stuff that I have no doubt he'll figure out. But he wants to be the face of the franchise. He wants to be that leader. He wants to be the guy on the billboard. And I think it's important, and the Mariners need to commit themselves to Mitch Haniger, because he is going to be the guy that keeps everyone accountable, the clubhouse leader, the guy that everyone looks to, that doesn't stand up in front of everyone and say, do this, do that, but the guy that people just look to see what they should be doing. Again, a Kyle Seager type. I don't think, as far as I understand, Kyle Seager wasn't the type that got up in front of everyone and said, do this, do that, rah, 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 I'm gonna lead you. Instead, instead people looked to him and said, I don't know what I should be doing. I'm gonna look at Kyle Seager to be my guidepost, to say, like, what my career wants to be, what I want to do, what I should be doing with myself at this time. I'm just gonna follow what Kyle Seager is. I mean, you can see that from J.P. Crawford, how emotional he was after that last game talking about Kyle Seager. It was clear that despite the fact that we know Kyle Seager not being the big outspoken guy, like, it just meant so much to all these young guys having a guy like Kyle Seager on the team to lead them by example, to be the captain or whatever it is, right? And I think, to me, that's going to be Mitch Haniger. There's going to be the guys that are the big media darlings like J.P. Crawford and Jared Kelenic, but Mitch Haniger is going to be the guy that is going to be the rock at the top of the lineup, in the batting third, batting fourth, whatever it is, and is going to be the guy that our offense is going to go around him.
Yeah.
That's the way I see this. So, honestly,
I think it's a really
for me,
exciting lineup starting next year. I mean, when you look at the front and middle part of our lineup, it looks like it's going to be, in order, J.P. Crawford, Ty France, Mitch Haniger, Kyle Lewis, and then a big free agent bat. Hopefully someone on the like talent level of like Trevor Story or up, right?
Yeah, like a third baseman or something like that. Like, yeah, Trevor Story, move him to third base. Corey Seager, move him to third base. Whatever it is, right?
Yeah, whoever they got up. You know what?
Or a second baseman.
Oh, I mean, I don't know what the second base free agent market is, but I know the shortstop free agent market is like incredible this year.
But I mean, the reality is that any of those guys, Story, you could get him, move him to second. You could trade for Whit Merrifield. It
could still be Baez too, because Baez got traded to the Mets and has not signed an extension yet. And if the Mets don't lock him down, which I don't think they're going to, considering it didn't look like Baez liked being a Met.
I mean, they had their own chaos, right?
Yeah. So could you imagine if they added like Javier Baez and Trevor Story in this offseason? Wow, that's a fucking lineup, right?
That would be crazy. I mean, that's what you need. It just showed just in the series against the Astros White Sox series, right? The difference that having a lineup that's a threat 1 through 8 or 1 through 9 is, right? I mean, the Astros are not, as much as people can be like, oh, the Astros offense is so amazing. Like, Martin Maldonado is an absolute freaking black hole at number 9 in that batting order. But if you're solid 1 through 8, like, you're good.
Good. No, I agree. I completely agree. And
anyways.
That's such a solid lineup if you add 2 more bats to it, because it's literally, like, the infield is set. Other than Evan White at this point, that infield would be fucking set. And then the outfield would be Mitch Haniger, Kyle Lewis, and allegedly Jared Kelenic, and maybe Julio Rodriguez.
Naughty. Yeah.
Like, oh, man.
Yeah, Jerry DiPardo even said today that there's a chance that Julio's essentially going to force his hand by his performance.
Yeah,
and
starting the opening day roster.
Yeah, make the opening day roster. Yeah. Anyways, so at least for me, I think just at any point of this game, this season as a whole backs up this point, but at least this game in a microcosm just proves to me that the Mariners need to make Mitch Haniger the long-term focal point of this offense. They just should. They should. 4, 5 years, 6 years, something like that.
From what we've seen from him so far in his career, when he's healthy, he is the real deal. Although he's not the best average hitter, his power numbers more than make up for it.
What did he bat on average? 255? Yeah, I mean...
255 is serviceable. It's above serviceable. And
especially in today's baseball, right?
In today's baseball, on this Mariners roster, anyone hitting over 250 is basically hitting over 300.
Yeah.
Like, the bottom of the order was such a fucking black hole. When you look at how many people on the team over the course of the season were hitting over 500, there's only 3 players. The only 3 players on this roster hit over 500, including Kyle Lewis, considering he was out for so long, right? But it's Mitch Haniger, J.B. Crawford, and Ty France.
Anyways, so that was the Mitch Haniger game. Absolutely legendary. Mitch Haniger made himself a legend in Mariners. No matter what happens with him, I mean, obviously we have our opinions. I have my opinion of what the Mariners need to do with Mitch Haniger. But he'll go down in history for that game. And one thing we haven't even talked about is how amazing the atmosphere at T-Mobile Park was.
Yeah, it was pretty nice.
I mean, it was special to me. Even being at home, it gave me goosebumps seeing the stadium absolutely loaded, and the fever for Mariners baseball and the anticipation for fans. It's one of those things where it's just like, I get that that's not what Major League Baseball is. There's not really any stadium that's like that 162 games a year, right?
Yeah.
But like weekend games, Friday night games, like that's the way it should be.
Yeah, they should be sold out games.
It's the way it should be. I'm not saying you have to sell the game out, but you gotta. That should be the atmosphere. I hope that's what it is, and it's obviously asking a lot, and there's a lot going on. But it's just like, I mean, I think if it'll be like that, I think it will be like that. I can't wait. It made me excited to finally see a postseason game in Seattle. And I was even talking to Gabby. I was like, no matter what, when the Mariners make the World Series, like, we're going to a game in Seattle. Like, no matter what, I'll pay any amount. I'll do anything I have to do. If I have to fly out the morning of and fly back the next day, I will do whatever it takes to see, especially a World Series game in Seattle. I'll do whatever it takes.
Agree that would be really cool. I would probably do the same thing, right? I really did feel like this last series against the Angels did feel like a post-game series, and it was a lot to do with the atmosphere and like the
100%. The Mariners fans made it that way. In my opinion, I mean, they can be fair weather, they can be fickle, but like especially the Mariners fans love the Seattleites, Seattle peoples love baseball deep down at their core. I believe that this is a baseball city. As much as football has been the talk of the town, the belle of the ball, as much as I love the Seahawks and they've been amazing the last few years, and as much as, there is a heart in this city for the Supersonics and basketball, and for so long Seattle was considered a basketball city, right? I do believe that deep at its heart, I think that Seattle is a baseball city, and to me, this series showed it. I mean, they're like Seattle fans. I think are smart fans. You saw them get excited at the right moments. You saw the pop off at the right moments.
And not just people there. They're people actually like watching the game.
Yeah, paying attention. They're active. They know what they're doing. They're not just.
It's not a Rays game.
One thing I compare it to, and this is not like, I'm not trying to just like ricochet this team out of nowhere, but very famously, the Golden State Warriors of the NBA are known for their games being really inaccessible and expensive to go to, and it's just famous Silicon Valley rich people, that buy the tickets for these games, but are the only ones that can afford and go to these games, and there is sort of like the stigma. I don't think it's 100% true. It's not 100% fair, but like
it feels like all basketball to me. Like
it is definitely a lot of basketball, right? Yeah, it has that feeling. Like the Mariners don't have that feeling, but if you look at like a Dodger game, for example, it kind of has that feeling, especially if you're looking behind home
that's
plate.
Just all LA teams, though.
I know, but I'm just saying as an example, if you're looking behind home plate, I'm not saying that they're not real fans, and I'm not the type of person. I'm very against like judging people as fans. I want to prop up Mariners fans for being awesome, but if you look behind the Dodgers, if you look behind the camera, you're gonna find 4 or 5 famous people that you recognize, right?
Yeah. I'll be honest with you,
and that's fine.
I will commend any Mariners fan that isn't a doomer boomer. I'm so tired of listening to fucking doomer or reading doomer boomer posts online about how the Mariners will never be good, and how that's just another bad team. You lost 2 games, or you lost on the last day of the season. Sounds like the Mariners.
Yeah.
Like, shut the fuck up. If you don't like the Mariners, stop fucking watching.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, again, like I'm definitely not one I'm not here to put down fans, not telling people how to be a fan, anything like that. I just say, in my opinion, I really respect Mariners fans, obviously being one of them, but I think that the Mariners fans are smart fans, they're loyal fans. There's a lot of people that have stuck with this team through really difficult years. And there's a lot of people, and this is what I give credit to, you can call them bandwagoners, you can call them fair weather fans, whatever, but yeah. I see it different with Seattle fans. I see it different because the way I see it is that it's a lot. There are 162 games a season. It's very hard to be committed to a baseball team. I think, personally, is the way I see it. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of effort to be really hardcore committed. But yeah. What I see in the hearts of Mariners fans is not fair weather fans, not people that only care when the Mariners are doing well, but people that just in their hearts want the Mariners to do well, right? When I see a fair weather fan, I see someone who only gets excited when the team's winning and doesn't really care. Like when they're losing, they just don't really care. What I see from Mariners fans is people that are genuinely frustrated because they want to have a team to root for. They want to be a fan of baseball. And I don't blame anyone for, especially with how bad this team has been at points in the past 10 years, I don't blame anyone for not wanting to tune in and day out when a team is struggling, when a team is getting blown out. I'm never going to blame a fan for that. But what I do love about Mariners fans is that you can feel the fervor, and you can feel, even when the Mariners are bad, that they want something to root for. That's what I think you don't see in teams that have fair weather fans, that have bandwagon fans, is it's people that they simply just don't care. They're completely apathetic when the team's bad, and they're happy when the team wins. For Mariners fans, I think that there's a special breed to me because they're obviously happy when the team wins. They celebrate the team when it wins, but when they're not winning, there's like a deep hurt inside of like the city of Seattle and Mariners fans. And so just to see the opposite of that, what we've seen so many years, I mean, we've just been droning on about it, but I just appreciate all the Mariners fans that did go out there when they were able to. I mean, obviously I would have loved to be there. But I live half a country away, so I was there in spirit. Anyways,
some distance, but that's
okay. Speaking of that last game, I don't really want to drone too much on the last game. Definitely a heartbreaker. Ended up being a game that didn't matter because both the Boston and the Yankees won. We needed one of the two of them to lose, and we needed to win our game. We ended up losing our game anyways. Really tough start again by Tyler Anderson. coming off the really strong athletics performance, it was not wrong for Service to run Tyler Anderson out there, right? But
I don't know.
But
I feel like they should have at least
it was
done
predictable,
the whole, like spot start thing.
Yeah, I just think, and maybe they should have had a little bit of a shorter leash with him. I mean, he gave up 4 runs, 3 of them earned over an inning and a third. There was some errors. The defense kind of fell short behind him a little bit. But the reality is he wasn't sharp. And again, for the second time in a row against the Angels, he gets beat up pretty bad. And it's like, what are you going to do? Like, again, because of how well he pitched against the Athletics, I don't blame Service for running him out there. But it was kind of a predictable outcome because clearly the Angels had his number, right? Yep. Clearly they did. That's just my frustration of that game. I don't have too much else to say about it. The bats just weren't there. You said it yourself. They kind of got deflated. They could see what was happening in the other games, and it deflated them. Obviously, I think the thing for me that stands out the most, and I'm a man. I'm a grown man. But it was emotional. That game was an emotional game, not only because of the whole season. And I feel this way after every season. I feel this way after every Gonzaga basketball season. The thing that makes me most sad at the end of a season is knowing that I'll never see these guys again. I loved this team. I love this team. If I could watch this team, if I could watch these 26 guys play baseball every single day for the rest of my life, I would sign up for that immediately.
Yeah,
because I freaking love this team. And the thing that's going to hurt me the most is never getting to see this team play baseball ever again. And we'll get to see the Mariners, right? We'll get to see most of this team play baseball. But this team, the 2021 Seattle Mariners, we'll never get to see them again. I find that heartbreaking. And obviously the biggest part of that was how, seeing what is likely the last game that Kyle Seager will play in a Mariners uniform. Yeah. And I remember 2 seasons ago, again, this is my favorite baseball player of all time, but when Felix had his last game in Seattle, I was absolutely crying like a baby. But it was more for me. It was more for me, right? It was just again, he's my favorite baseball player of all time, and knowing that I'd never see him pitch in a Seattle Mariners uniform again got really emotional. This time felt different. You can tell me how you feel about the Kyle Seager thing, but it felt different because I felt bad not only for Seager and myself, but for the team. Just seeing how important Kyle Seager was to all of these young up-and-coming baseball players for the Mariners, for J.P. Crawford, all of these, especially for J.P. Crawford, right? But for all of these guys to see how important Kyle Seager is to them, you're not human. If that didn't make you feel something, you're just not human, right? I don't know. Yeah, you can tell me how did you feel?
Rough. I didn't enjoy watching it.
I cried. I definitely was shedding tears.
I definitely teared up as well. I really had a hard time, especially when when they give him the bag and he comes back out there and holds the bag up.
Yeah.
Oh, that was rough. I mean, that really was his bag. I mean, I guess you could say it's not the bag as used the whole time because they didn't increase the size of the bags.
Right, but I mean, he owned for the Seattle Mariners. He owned third base for 10 years, 10 years straight.
And I mean, he's gonna keep it as a trophy, hopefully, right? And he's definitely earned it. I mean, he's one of those guys that's really caught a lot of flack whenever he wasn't performing well, and he's I feel like he's one of the most judged Mariners of all time. Maybe outside 100%. Outside of Dustin Ackley, he's right behind him.
Yeah, 100%. He is, and the thing is that the Mariners relied on him for so long. He was with us for 10 years, playing every single day.
He was so consistent, and he was so under-recognized.
And that's the thing, too, is that, think about it. How many years in a row did he have 20 home run season? Even going to this last season, you can complain. You can complain about Kyle Seager hitting 220 or whatever he did on the season, 212, whatever it ended up being.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, he finished at 212. The dude had
35 bombs.
The dude had 35 home runs and 100 RBIs.
Yep.
What else are you asking for?
I don't know.
If you, no matter what that batting average is, if you go at the beginning of the season and you're I'm giving you Kyle Seager He's going to hit 35 home runs and 100 RBIs. You're like, perfect.
Okay, cool.
And that's credit to Kyle Seager. Kyle Seager was a guy that developed himself throughout his career. He was who he needed to be at the right points in his career. He was super consistent at the beginning of the year, playing every single day, being a defensive third baseman, what we needed him to be. Then he transitioned to a guy that was, the number 5 hitter, the really solid guy behind Nelson Cruz and behind Robinson Cano, and he was who we needed him to be then. And now he was the team leader the last 2 years. He was the guy that, even though he wasn't hitting for average, there was no one that was more clutch than Kyle Seager.
Yep.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you get 100 RBIs and you're a 212 hitter, you're clutch. You have to be. It means that when there are people on base in front of you, the most important time in the game, I would take a guy who hits 150 but is nuts clutch. I would take a guy that never got a hit when the bases were empty, but always got a hit when there was a runner on second base. I would take that guy every time.
Yeah.
Especially if you have the right people in front of him, the J.P. Crawfords, the Ty France, the Mitch Hanigers, we're going to miss Kyle Seager. It's like, the thing is, too, and the thing that we've talked about this all season long, it just disgusts me, the narrative, and maybe Kyle doesn't want to come back, but the Mariners have the option. Obviously, they've decided to move on, but if the Mariners, it's a player option, it's a team option. If the Mariners just said, Kyle, you're staying here, no one could do anything about it. That's obviously not what they want. There has to be some
sort of mutual agreement going on behind the scenes where Kyle says, I'm ready to move on, I'm not happy, and I wouldn't be happy playing here. And they know that they want to unlock that $20 million so that they can get those big free agent names, right? Yeah. But at this point, knowing that they're not going to be keeping Kyle Seager, I would kind of be pretty annoyed if they went and got Corey Seager.
Probably, yeah.
Although, it's definitely
here's the thing: if you can get him, I think if you can get Corey Seager, you just got to do it. It would feel weird though. Yeah. Wouldn't it feel weird to have another player on your team with Seager on the back of his jersey and Kyle's just not there?
And even worse, he'll probably be manning third if he's on the team.
Yeah, third or second.
It's just so fucking disrespectful. I actually don't see him joining I don't see Corey joining the team out of fucking respect for his brother,
I don't know if that's it. I don't see it happening.
I mean,
I don't know if that's why, but
unless they're just like, yo, Corey, you want $300 million? I don't know. I don't see it happening. But I also don't see the Mariners offering him more than $200 million, which is why he'll probably go to the Yankees or to the Astros.
Yeah. I don't know what's gonna happen. Anyways, that was the end of the season, Nick. I mean, it was absolutely an emotional roller coaster, and if anyone who's paid attention to the Seattle Mariners throughout this season, wouldn't have expected anything less. These were the Cardiac Kids. This was chaos baseball, and it was perfectly personified in the final stretch of this season. It was.
Yeah.
Again, I'm gonna miss this team. Especially breaking it down like this and reliving it like this. Like, it makes me feel the same things all over again. That's like, I'm sad that I'll never get to see the 2021 Seattle Mariners play baseball ever again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know we definitely skipped our more traditional portions. I think just quickly, what we typically do, the best thing we saw, worst thing we saw, and MVP. I think for me, definitely the best thing I saw was the rallying behind Kyle Seager, giving him the third base, like you said that. Worst thing I saw, probably the offensive effort, like we said in that first Los Angeles game of the last series, that Friday night game, just because we obviously knew it was a must win, and the Mariners squandered late game opportunities that all season they've been capitalizing on, and you could just feel kind of the air, the air seeping out of the balloon, right?
Yeah. I would agree with you. I can't even really think of another option for either of those. I mean, the only one I can think of would be Mitch Haniger's 4-hit game, like saving the season, right?
Yeah, and the only reason, saving the season, the only reason was because I was going to give my MVP to Mitch Haniger just because of how big that game was, and I think how much it's gonna define the
future of the team.
the future of Mariners baseball, right? Because I think if the Mariners weren't gonna do it already, I think it solidified that like Mitch Haniger is the rock of this franchise, right? Or at least that's who I believe you should commit to. I feel like you probably agree with all three of those takes.
I agree with everything you've just said.
All right. That's pretty much it. I mean, do you have anything else? Obviously, a little bit of a longer podcast we've drawn on. We had to really break it down and emotionally relive the rest of this season. We have at least, I want to say we're going to do at least 2 more podcasts. We'll probably do one that kind of wraps the season up as a whole, maybe close to maybe like right before the World Series in like a week or 2.
We could do like a pre-World Series breakdown.
Yeah, pre-World Series breakdown where we go back, and then obviously we have to do probably our favorite podcasts of the season, at least one of them where we do our tier list of all the players.
Tier list hype.
Yeah, definitely kind of our calling card at this point for our podcast is that tier list that we break down, and that's always a fun one. So I would say you can at least look forward to 2 more podcasts that are solely focused on the 2021 Seattle Mariners. And then we'll be looking forward. Obviously, the season ending soon in terms of the postseason, winter meetings, and free agency is going to be a big important thing for the Mariners because they're definitely the team now. Like, they've done it to themselves, right? They made the statement this year that they're here, and it's going to be up to them now to prove that they're for real, right? To prove that this season wasn't a fluke, to prove that the development is actually happening for all the players. And so we're to that point. We're going to have a lot to talk about over the winter, I believe, over the offseason.
Yep.
So it's exciting. There's never, even with the season ending, I don't think there's been a more exciting time to be a Mariners fan, at least in the last decade. Probably since the early 2000s.
2001, baby.
Yeah, probably. That's probably honest. It's at least within the last decade, though, right? Anyways, I think unless you have something else, that's gonna be it for us tonight, Nick.
All I can think of is go M's.
Yeah, go M's. We'll see you next time.
There's a drive, deep right field, say goodbye. Hey, Lloyd, do some delivery for the truck to the airport.